performance. Okay. Wait, I need to remember my question. So question for Ben. Over there. So here's how do you create the formula for the metrics?
Okay. So we have two sources for data. We have interest group ratings, and we have the legislative actions of the politicians. So you can create your own report by selecting legislation that you support from, for instance, the gay perspective or any other. And we will rate the politician based on their votes and their sponsorship and so on. So Obama has that rating because some interest groups have supported him that way, and maybe in the future that'll change based on his actions in office. But the point is that you yourself can actually provide an alternative perspective.
What's your website?
It's votereports.org, and this is our first project, and we've got more coming. So.
Alright, so I remember my question. Alright, so as some of you know, which is either a terrible thing or a good thing, I'm sort of a sports nerd, I suppose. I know lots of weird statistics about things. But so therefore I play lots of fantasy sports. And so my idea years ago was for teaching kind of like government and social study and history to students was to actually do like fantasy government, like fantasy House of Representatives. Like I would draft Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer and be like, dude, those guys voted for the Donut Hotel bill. I get 6 points this week. Awesome. Is there any way that something like that could be adapted so kids today could learn more about what happens on a regular basis with government? You can take it. I'll give it to you.
I'm not going to build that, but I know there's one exists for the Supreme Court, and a bunch of law students use it, and that's the best I can do. I mean, you're welcome to build something.
If anyone wants to start an internet company with me, I got the idea. You just got to build it. All right, you'll make tens of cents. It'll be awesome. All right, any other questions for Ben? Yeah.
I got a question. Are you saying that the system needs to be better informed, or that the system should change?
The question is, are you saying the system should be better informed, or should the system be changed?
It's a great question, actually. I think the system does need to change, but it's much easier to inform the system than to change it. Changing the system is a political problem. It requires overcoming the incumbent politicians, the parties, and so on. But informing the system is something that can happen on the internet. It can happen on the individual basis with voters just looking at the data that's there and people making it easy to know who you should be voting for. That's what we're trying to do. But in the future, though, if everyone's hooking into this system where they're taking their clues from interest groups, then the interest groups can be the policy wonks that can push for the really significant changes, and they can have the weight of those voters behind them to make that possible. So you see this, the strongest example of this right now is the NRA. The NRA has a very dedicated voter base, and they can push through basically anything that they choose in that issue, because even if the folks who are their members are not specifically clued into that specific issue, they can give ratings to the politicians which will punish them for not following the specificities of those policies. So we can change the system by first changing the way that the system is informed. I think that's important, and that's the path forward. So the question is, does the system require single issue voting? And not necessarily. So in vote reports, you select a number of issues, you answer questions about them, and we sort of average them together. And ultimately you can weight them and so on and pick from a combination of issues. And that's what we want. We want you to represent yourself in the system and pick the best person for you from all your issues.
This is really random, but how about combining both and having a system that everybody can use, log on, and have the politicians themselves be able to log in, see what their actual constituents want, and then vote that way?
Certainly, yeah.
Facebook!
Here's the thing that
Facebook!
I think, okay, so the question is, how about getting the politicians into the system and have them watching what the constituents want and reacting to that? I think that's a powerful idea, and I think that will happen. The problem right now is that you need to get the politicians' attention, and to get their attention, you need the voter power behind it. So you need a site that has a substantial portion of the electorate to say that these people are deciding what happens, and by participating in that site, you add to the weight of that site and bring in and motivate the politicians to participate. We want their participation, certainly, but that it takes you guys to push them into it.
Hi. Did you take a look at a country like Estonia? I believe I saw a documentary on it. Estonia has a lot of their government done on the internet, online. Politicians, use the computer to do legislation and things like that.
That's all true. Okay, so the question is about Estonia. Estonians vote via their cell phones, I think, among other things. They can do things online. They can. It's a very modern country in politics. But I think that's mostly an accident of history. I think it's an ex-Soviet state, and so they didn't have the old bureaucracy holding them back. They started anew, and they started with higher ideas about politics, and so in a sense they're like a more recent example of the American Revolution, right? Because in the American Revolution we started from nothing, and likewise when they started their country as an ex-Soviet state, they cast off the old bureaucracy and they started anew. So that's a great opportunity, and you can do great things with that, but I don't think it's something you can necessarily apply to America.
Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left here.